Good morning. Coming to our topic, it is about it is mix of two things. It is about economy, and then it is about energy. Uh, the target is that how we can become or how energy can contribute to 10 trillion economy for India. So yes, energy is linked to GDP, but at the same time, if you see the intensity of GDP, it is different in different economies. US has only around 100 per trillion or per unit. Uh, China is around 200 and we are around 300. So it is not only about use of energy in GDP or growth, it is also about efficient use of energy. I will request both the panelists to present their views.
So what I'm going to try and do, trying to take a 30,000 foot view here, if you look at the broad influences right now playing out in the oil markets, there's geopolitics and economics or economy. So those are the two main factors that oil market participants, and broadly I would say energy market participants, need to keep a very close eye on. If we boil it down to the main factors right now in the oil markets, there's two wars on the Gaza front and what's happening on the Ukraine front. The fear of that supply being disrupted is quite big, and at some level crude has to factor that in. And then of course we have the Houthis that have been attacking and threatening ships in the Red Sea. Despite these two festering wars and the geopolitical risk premium that I talked about, crude remains below the peaks that we saw last September. The IMF's latest projection is that the global economy will grow by about 3.2% this year as well as next year, still below historical average. On supply, OPEC, non-OPEC continues to reduce, to tighten supply into the markets, which actually is a bit ironic and strange given that OPEC plus, or OPEC rather, is actually forecasting that global oil demand will grow by more than 2 million barrels per day year on year. US shale is no longer a swing producer. There are other countries which are growing output quite strongly as well. So aside from the US, Canada, Brazil, Guyana, to some extent Norway as well. But again, the important thing to keep in mind on the supply front is none of these are swing producers as such. How the global economy performs is a proxy for expectations of global oil demand growth.
Beyond oil, there is other forms of energy that the world really cares about. So we have gas, we have oil, we have coal, and different types of petroleum products as well. In terms of the sheer affordability, in terms of the implication to global customers, because gas as a commodity is sometimes very important for survival as well, right? I mean, it goes for home heatings and cookings and all those things. So that was a major story, the gas price volatility. Playground for oil is not changing at all, right? I mean, the playground for oil is those sort of levels between 70 and 90. Why is that? Basically, the market is a story of relatively sort of stable and sort of slowing demand growth. I mean, oil demand is growing still, but the demand growth is sort of stabilizing and slowing down a little bit, and China is a big factor there. The overall story is that OPEC, non-OPEC plus supplies are actively taking what OPEC plus is leaving on the table. One of the most important rebalancing of the last maybe 2 decades or something of the oil market is the rebalancing, or rather the reshifting of Russian sort of oil flows from Europe into Asia, and India is played a big part of that. When the world didn't expect Russian oil to flow with such ease, India did pick up quite a lot of barrels in 2022 and 2023, and it still continues, by the way. On any given day, hands down, Russian oil is the cheapest barrel for India. It's just the risk perception of how much you want to expose yourself to these barrels, the risk perception of how much you want to, sort of alienate your long-term supplier of crude oil. Lastly, on LNG, Asia used to be the final place where the marginal price was decided for the LNG market, but it shifted to Europe. And, right now, because there is no sort of shortage situation in Europe, the power of pricing sort of is coming back to Asia a little bit. And India very specifically, we did see, Indian LNG demand being extremely price sensitive. So yeah, I think that's the energy scene for now.
Thank you both of you for wonderful presentation. I would like to add a few things there that India will continue to grow as far as energy demand is concerned. And in next 25 years so it will be more than double. What is more interesting is that in spite of all the talk about renewables and all, oil will still grow in India and grow handsomely. Similarly, gas in fact is expected that it will grow much more because current share is very small. So the government target is that 15% by 2030. So what my question to both of you, has pricing of crude particularly lost elasticity because of various things, supply issues or events like geopolitical issues?
Historically, or rather anecdotally, the oil prices are more enjoy a greater degree of elasticity to supply issues rather than to demand always. That has been the case for quite a few decades. And in terms of renewable, whether renewable is going to be more efficient, than oil or traditional fossil fuels. So there will always be, these shared pockets of, efficiencies and inefficiencies.
So with regard to demand elasticity or demand response to prices, I'd like to think, however, that there is still demand elasticity globally on a global basis, but the band has widened. So I would say anywhere between perhaps $65 to $90 per barrel price, we won't see that much response in terms of global demand. I have a lot to say about energy transition. So globally, if you look at the energy mix, 80% of global energy is coal, oil, and gas. Everything else, renewable energy, and renewable energy, we equate it with solar and wind, but there's also hydropower, there's nuclear power. So everything else fits in that remainder of 20%. So yes, the world is moving, but the affordability, the scalability, the accessibility of greener energy, I think those will determine how much of that 20%, or renewable energy is 6 to 7%, eats into the remaining 80%. I feel it's going to happen, unfortunately, way slower than what some of the people like to think or believe today.
Thank you. So before we end that, what I believe is that, in fact, my panel members also believe that India is going to grow and 10 trillion is not far away. And we will be using all kind of energies and whatever is suiting us and affordable to us. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.